Namaskar. Does Iran have 95% enrichment done, or is it all gas? Well, here is a small slide deck that examines this issue in some detail and also the realigning of United States with Russia. Why are the two trying to become friends now? Who gets what? Who wins what? All this and more in this slide deck. It's very important because we know even as this Ukraine-Russia conflict starts petering out, or at least trying to get into a ceasefire mode, you still have the other one, which is Israel versus Iran. How is that going to play out? Who is having stakes in what part of Middle East? All that and more in this slide deck. Please do like this video, and if you have not already subscribed to our channel, please do so right away. Here we go. Is Iran's claim of 95% enrichment of uranium all gas? Thanks to Kannan Ramaswamy for the research. We used that as our basis, and then we built on top of that. We have a bunch of reference links that you can go through to understand this issue in some depth. The Obama-aligned deep state, remember now that the deep state appears to be clearly divergent with what the Trump administration wants to do, right? What is it that the deep state want? And why is it pushing the EU to escalate the attacks on Ukraine? What gives? Now, you also know that United States instructed UK and other countries to not share information about, not share intelligence information with Ukraine, and that got Ukraine completely on all fours, surrendering. Now they want to talk. They've evidently sent a letter that Trump said that I have received it. What is going to happen next? We'll have to wait and see. But I think that is coming to a point where it is becoming a little bit more stable. So this particular monologue looks at what is coming down the pipeline, what is going to be happening as far as Iran is concerned, what is its nuclear strength, if it is not having any nuclear weapons, is that why Israel keeps going to the brink and then coming back? Because they kind of know that Iran doesn't have any enriched uranium. Is that what is happening? And who is going to be able to tell Iran something that Iran would listen to? Is it Russia? Well, all that and more in this video. The interesting information that is coming from Ukraine is that some NATO military personnel are allegedly operating long-range missile launch sites targeting Russian territory. Now, this is a no-no, because that means that the European members of NATO are trying to drag US into a conflict, and I think that is something that Trump administration doesn't want, and they have always been of the view that we will not start any new wars. This has been the doctrine in the first term of Trump, and this has been the doctrine this time too. So as the Ukraine stuff starts tapering down, what is the DS doing? The deep state is now beginning to rustle up feathers in the Middle East. And who are the people that he is using? Who are the people that DS is using? I'll tell you in just a moment. But really what is going on now is it is expected that Houthi rebels or the Hezbollah or Hamas, whoever is left out, may start sharpening their attacks on United States assets. And that would mean that at some point of time the United States is going to just throw up its hands and say, okay, we're going to finish them off. Unlike Israel, the United States has a little bit more tolerant attitude of these things. In fact, we know that some money from US aid went into Hamas to keep Israel in check. So it's not as if the Biden administration was all 100% pro-Israel. There were people who were saying, no, let's not let them run away with the narrative. Let's give them some trouble here and there. So what if people die? Now here is the new development. Ukraine's weapons are being transferred to Syria, especially to the HTS. And this is again could be a deep state play. 𝗔𝗔𝗿 𝗏𝗏, a Turkish arms trafficker and former special ops officer, claimed to have established an arms trafficking ring in Ukraine. So this is a Turkish guy who has gone to Ukraine and he is established there. He allegedly purchased redundant weapons from the Ukrainian military, refurbished them and smuggled them to fighters in Syria via Turkey. Turkey is like you give the money, they'll allow you passage across the country. 𝗤𝗘𝗙 claimed the Ukrainian army profited $67 million annually from these arms sites. So this is the other irritation for the United States, that some of the arms and ammunition that has been given to Ukraine are now going to the HTS that is in power in Syria. In 2015, the same Turkish individual 𝗤𝗘𝗙 and his associates were indicted after a truck full of explosives were intercepted in Hatay province, Turkey. Remember I told you, Turkey gives you passage for a fee. He was allegedly working with the Turkish intelligence agency MIT to supply arms and explosives to jihadist groups. Before standing trial, he fled to Ukraine. After fleeing, 𝗤𝗘𝗙 expanded his arms trafficking network in Ukraine, establishing front companies with profits from illegal arms sales. His primary operations were based in Kurdistan, a city located 2 hours from Kiev. In February 2023, 𝗤𝗘𝗙 testified at the Ankara 28th High Criminal Court detailing his operations. The court documents obtained by Nordic Monitor, the reference is in the reference links, revealed his involvement in Ukraine's arms trade and his connections to jihadist fighters in Syria. 𝗤𝗘𝗙's testimony suggests a complex arms smuggling network linking Ukraine, Turkey and Syria, involving military surplus sales, intelligence agencies and terrorist groups. How does surplus happen? Well, there is a unit fighting something somewhere, and in order to fight they need arms and ammunition, tanks, what have you. They get all that stuff, then suddenly either the unit completely gets dissolved or they are asked to go somewhere else and fight, but they can't take all these things with them because the terrain could be different, the way the engagement is could be different. So suddenly what happens is you have these pockets of arms and ammunition lying around, and that's what looks like they have gone and taken that and said, okay, this is surplus, this is not going anywhere, let me make a quick buck by selling it to somebody else. The EU appears to be working with HTS, with Turkey playing a behind the scenes role in this new partnership. Now there is a new twist in this whole story. Russia, Israel and US are negotiating for what needs to be done next with Syria. And it looks like US and Israel will allow Russia to reclaim its military bases in Syria, and Israel supports allowing Russia to retain its military bases to balance Turkey's role in the region, because HTS was all Turkey. So suddenly Turkey is growing stronger, so Israel wants to curb that, and instead of putting boots on the ground, they are telling Russians, oh, by the way, if you want to go back and reoccupy your bases, feel free, you can, we will support you. In exchange, so Russia also has to give something. Russia must ensure HTS refrains from engaging in conflicts in Golan Heights, Druze regions and South Syria, areas where Israel has people who would like to either merge with Israel or migrate to Israel. Remember the Druze community, I had a monologue on that. Now Turkey is being blocked by the US and Israel from expanding influence in northern Syria, particularly in Kurdish areas. Now Kurdistan is a concept that perhaps covers several parts of Iran, Syria as well as Turkey. All these things, the Kurds are there in big numbers, and they have been fighting for their own homeland called Kurdistan, and we all know what has been happening there. The ISIS had an established presence there, and they basically plundered the oil wells, and that money was what was driving their economy and so on and so forth. Now let's fast forward to the front. Let's fast forward to the present. Russia may facilitate US and Israeli support for Kurdistan. Russia has historically maintained a complex relationship with Kurdish groups, leveraging these connections to advance its geopolitical interests in the Middle East. Now the Kurdistan concept is a thorn in the flesh of Turkey, and this is one way to keep the pot boiling as far as Turkey is concerned. We all know how Sweden was asked to give up on some of these groups who had headquarters in there, Kurd groups, and in order for them to join the NATO. We know that. Russia has now positioned itself as a mediator among various Middle Eastern factions, including Kurds, to expand its influence. By the way, there is a part of Kurdistan, big one in Iraq too. So part of Iran, part of Iraq, part of Syria, and part of Turkey. All those 4 states, the top portions is where the Kurds have their presence. Historically, Russia has provided military support to Kurdish groups, using them as a tool to exert pressure on adversaries and enhance its strategic foothold in the region. So, why does Kurdistan need Russia's help? Well, they are taking out crude, but they would like to probably refine it and sell the final product, or they need refined crude so that they can use it for themselves. No vehicle runs on crude oil, no stove burns off of crude oil. You have to refine it. So, Russian energy companies have invested heavily in the Kurdistan region's oil and gas sectors, strengthening economic ties and ensuring access to vital energy resources. It's a different matter that Russia needs companies like Halliburton from the United States to extract oil cheaply from Siberia, because the climate is so cold there, you need some really specialized equipment. So, the interesting things here, Russia itself supplies mining and energy extraction tools, but it itself needs stuff from Halliburton and other companies based out of US. By supporting Kurdish groups, Russia aims to counterbalance Turkey's growing influence in Syria, aligning with Israeli interests in curbing Turkish expansionism. Turkey opposes any move that strengthens Kurdish autonomy in Syria. So you have these wheels within wheels. I'm sure Qatar will again take a side. I don't have to tell you which side it will take, even as it continues to have bases for the United States and lets United States actually police the country. I'm told that much of the police force in Qatar is all essentially people who have worked in the US police force, who have taken a transfer or they quit their jobs in the US to take up these assignments in Qatar, which are supposed to be quite lucrative. To counter Kurdish autonomy, Turkey has launched multiple military operations in northern Syria. Turkey has expressed strong opposition to the autonomous administration of North and East Syria established by Kurdish groups. Turkey perceives the new Islamist rulers in Syria, backed by Ankara, as a counterbalance to Kurdish autonomy efforts. See, in this case, both Turkey and Iran also will come together, because everybody has some presence of Kurds in their territory and they may want to just keep them fighting and separate. Now, where does Russia come into all this? Russia says that it can mediate between the United States and Tehran, and especially concerning its nuclear program, and allow for peaceful negotiations and prevent nuclear weapons development. In recent discussions, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov aligned with Iranian leaders on nuclear issues, emphasizing diplomatic solutions within the framework of the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action (JCPOA). Russia has agreed to assist the United States admin in communicating with Iran on matters related to its nuclear program and regional activities, reaffirming Moscow's readiness to support peaceful resolutions. Reports of Iran reaching 95% uranium enrichment might be exaggerated by the deep state to provoke an Israeli or US strike. The UN nuclear watchdog reported that Iran has significantly increased uranium enrichment to 60% purity, close to the 90% required for nuclear weapons. But 60 is different, 85, 90 is long way away. So Russia evidently is advising Iran, don't take panga or don't have a conflict with Israel and US until Trump's term progresses into the second half, by which time usually the president doesn't get much done. In return, Russia is pressuring the US to lift some critical sanctions on Iran. Will it? Will have to be seen. Israel remains wary of any peace deal with Iran, citing past broken agreements with Muslim nations. In fact, remember that the Iran deal was pulled off by Trump. because Iran reneged on some of its vows when they signed the deal with Obama. Israel may resist US diplomatic efforts to ease tensions with Iran. What's the conclusion for all this stuff? The geopolitical landscape is undergoing major changes with Russia, US, Iran, Israel, Turkey and Ukraine repositioning their strategies. Russia is also playing mediator while strengthening its own global influence. The deep state is allegedly sabotaging Trump's peace efforts and trying to pull the US into new conflicts, especially as you can see in Ukraine. The Middle East, Ukraine and Syria remain key battlegrounds in this evolving power struggle. And there you have it. So Iran is definitely in the front burner, at least being moved to the front burner, if you will, and a lot of things are going to happen even as this Ukraine conflict starts going down into a mode where they will say, okay, we are going to have ceasefire talks, and slowly that will go to its logical end. But at the same time, things are going to start heating up again in Middle East. Well, on top of the tariff war, if there is going to be instability in the Middle East, you know what's going to happen. Energy prices will start going up. Inflation will again shoot up. We'll wait and see how that goes. Thanks for watching. Please like, share and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to click on the bell button for notifications and choose all. Namaskar.